Hi, Nick here from Greenspace Zambia. We're doing another one of our My Green Spaces videos, and today we're actually going to look at the ZZ plant. There is only one species of ZZ plant. The Latin, or the scientific name, sorry, is Zamioculcas zamiifolia. It is in the Aroid family, Araceae. It is found in East Africa, down into, I think, Malawi and Mozambique. As yet not known to be growing in Zambia. There are a few different forms of it, but as I say, there is just the one species at the moment. So here we have a younger plant propagated not too long ago, and you can see the stems kind of shoot up with the leaflets coming off of that. And I shouldn't say the stem. So this individual part coming up is the leaf, and then you've got leaflets that come off of the plants. This plant is about 1.5 to 2 years old or so, whereas this one is about 5 or so years old. This one we have growing in a fairly dark area in the house, just to give some interest in terms of having something there that is growing, and hence does not grow very quickly, and I do not water it very often. A younger plant growing in a brighter situation will grow faster and need to be watered more regularly. These plants grow from a tuber that is fairly large and succulent. So you do have to be careful sometimes with the watering. You don't want to overwater these guys. It's always best to kind of underwater them so that they don't rot. What happens as the tuber grows, it'll shoot off more of these leaves that will come up and then give you more interest, more height as well. So the initial leaves, this one here, from the first propagation, is only about 3 or 4 inches tall, whereas successive leaves have been getting taller. You can see here, as these ones have come up in the center, they are the tallest of the rest. So newer leaves that will then increase the height of the plant even more. On a larger plant, you might sometimes see the flowers, but the flowers are produced roughly at ground level. They are green, and you might not even notice when it flowers. We grow this predominantly for the architectural look of the plant and for the fact that it can grow in fairly dark locations. That said, some of the breeding work that has been done in the last number of years has been looking at trying to get interesting leaf forms. There are some darker leaf forms available now. I believe there's a cultivar called Raven that has quite dark foliage. The size and shape of the leaflets is also something that people have been interested in selecting for. These ones are a little on the broader side and quite long at the moment. But there are ones that are narrower, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer as well. There is also variegated types of ZZ plants. And those then add an extra layer of interest in terms of giving you some greater interest to the foliage, rather than this dark kind of glossy green. You know, they are fantastically versatile plants in the home. You can have them anywhere from bright light, some direct sunlight on these guys, through to fairly dark conditions. Depending on where you have them, that watering regime might be a little different. So in brighter light, in in locations where you're going to get more growth, they will need more watering. In locations where they're in a darker situation, they will generally need less water. Fertilizing, we would fertilize during the active growing season, so anywhere from September, October through to about March, April. Again, generally a well-balanced soluble fertilizer at half strength will keep these guys humming on quite happily. When we hit the cool dry season in April, May through to about June, they don't need to be watered that often at all. We might go down to watering only once a month in a brightly lit location, once every month and a half or so in a darker location. You know, don't worry, these are quite succulent plants adapted to a long dry season that occurs in East Africa and parts of Malawi and Mozambique. So they will not die on you. If they start to drop a leaflet or two, that is not the end of the world. As you can see here, this plant has dropped some leaflets, or this leaf, sorry, has dropped some leaflets at the lower nodes, but the upper part is still quite healthy and looking fine. So if it drops a few leaflets, it's not the end of the world. Don't worry too much about it. But what you will find over time is as these leaves age and the plant then decides that it's had enough of that leaf, what you will find is that the whole leaf will start to yellow and an abscission layer will start to form, usually about a 2 or so inches just above the soil line, where then the leaves start to dry off. That is normal. What you can do is either cut it just above that point and let the remaining part of the leaf start to dry, in which case what has been done here, or you can let the leaf dry naturally and then just pull it off when that happens, and then you can see on these little stumps here where that has happened. It is the natural life cycle of the leaf, nothing to worry about. If, on the other hand, you have not watered it for months and months and months on end, what you might find is the leaf starting to yellow. You can give it water at that point in time, but most likely if it started to yellow, those leaves will still fall. So in order to keep them nice and succulent and healthy green looking, you know, water accordingly, but don't overwater. Always remember, underwater these guys rather than overwater them. So if you can't remember if you watered last week, skip this week and then water next week kind of scenario. Otherwise, a fantastic kind of architectural feel to this plant, well suited to a range of light conditions around the house, and something that you don't have to be watering on a very, very regular basis. Make the ZZ plant one of the best in terms of indoor house plants to do. During our dry season, when there's a little bit more dust in the air, you might want to then go through and wipe the dust off of the leaves as it settles, just to maintain that kind of nice glossy look to them. Otherwise, what you get is this kind of sheen of dust forming on them, which is not going to hurt the plant necessarily, but does take away a bit from the aesthetic look of it. But otherwise, you know, very easy to take care of, very straightforward, and a valuable addition to any houseplant collection.